Hey everyone, welcome to Unique Ways with Thomas Gerard, an audio podcast. We've got a super awesome guest today joining us from India. He's a director of BEESTUDIO India, and he's a product design faculty at Ajeenkya Patil University School of Design and former head of department at Symbiosis. Please join me in welcoming Kushal Jadhav. Welcome, Kushal.
Yeah, hi, welcome. Thanks a lot, everyone. And I also welcome you all to have a chat with me, a short session. Yeah.
Great. Okay, are you ready for 20 questions?
Yes, sir, I am.
Great. Number one, tell me a little bit more about yourself. What do you do?
Okay, so my name is Kushal. I do a lot of stuff. I am an industrial designer by my qualification. I am a design educator, so I have taught and mentored in 2, 3 design colleges here in India. I have also been as a jury member to many other colleges in this country, and I do freelance design work in variety of design projects. So these range from industrial parts to automotive parts, consumer electronics, home automation, smart devices. I have done prefab houses and villas. So in short, it's not just a huge experience, but also a huge learning from all of these things which I do. So, but yeah, so I am a designer and I do everything related to design. So that's what I do.
That's great. Just a note for our audience, Kushal and I met in a education city near Mumbai, where he was teaching and I was teaching as well. I had an assistant professor role for a short time there.
Yeah.
Question two, what's a key piece of knowledge that makes you different?
So, uh, as such, every person's work is different. So, but I've always tried to have some different approach to the task at hand. So, for example, for any physical product design, I after my initial research phase, I mostly try to make physical mock-ups instead of sketching and then doing something digital. I directly go to physical mock-ups and then I evaluate each of them as ideations. So I'm not much influenced by the general knowledge around it uh, or the design that exists. I I always start from scratch and try to evolve organically. So again, key piece of knowledge is start from the beginning and evolve organically. So in the end, the outcome does tend to be unique in some ways. So that's my key piece of knowledge, which has helped me quite a lot in the professional domain.
That's awesome. It sounds like a very specific way of making or prototyping. Um, I do
Yes,
a,
yes,
I do a series of talk workshops called Unique Ways of Prototyping, which is very conceptual. I feel like yours is very hands-on, which is very cool.
yes, 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 yes.
Number three, why this of all things? Why do you do what you do?
Why do I do? So I have studied engineering initially, and I have also studied some networking also. The knowledge did connect to me, but only when I practically applied it somewhere. So like drafting in a structural member. But later, when I got in touch with an architect who designed my parents' house, I really got involved in the process, and then he saw it. Uh, he tried to train me with the basics of architecture, and for the first time, the learning process became my motivation. So then I started digging deeper into something which is called as a design process. That's when I applied for design education for my own education, and then I was overwhelmed with this thing. I was always hungry for more than just the courses which were conducted. So I took freelance work in my first semester itself, and then I never looked back after that. So I could work continuously for 2, 3 days at a stretch and still be energetic. Uh, And this was, of course, 15 years back. Now I need to sleep and take rest in between. But still, I have the same energy and curiosity of that time. So I do because of this, because it has given me, my profession or my work has given me continuous motivation each and every single day. And the best thing about product design freelancing is that every day you are on the edge. So you are trying to complete something. So my yesterday is very different from today and very different from tomorrow also. So that's why I do what I do. I like the daily challenges and the daily curiosity, and it keeps me awake and keeps me energetic.
Nice. I like your vulnerability about starting as with an engineering background. You know, teaching in India, product design, interaction design, communication design. A lot of my
Yeah,
students started off with engineering, and only later, after they proved that they could go through with engineering, were they allowed
yeah,
to study design. That was a very common path.
yes,
Um,
yes.
Number four, what does your future look like?
My own future. So just like I mentioned, it will definitely be different from my past and the present. Okay. So although I do plan for some aspirational things, like I would like to have some small workshop to build things which I have designed myself. I have also researched in some new things like food preservation and new foods, and would like to create new products into these things. I would also venture into something uh, which is quite similar to my current profession, but it will, my current profession as an educator or a teacher will take the uh, back foot, and I will be attached to education quite intermittently. So, but of course, this won't happen soon, but I will definitely do it in the near future. And just to sum it up, I'll try to go back to my basics and work. I think till my body permits to do, and then get ready to try something new. But it's always in design. So I will definitely work in design. But taking the next step is to uh, maybe going back to my basics and working something which is of exceptional quality.
Nice. You know, here in Canada, there's definitely a feeling that traditional education and traditional educational institutions are evolving in a somewhat precarious or unpredictable way. And
Hmm.
we all have to kind of be ready to maybe do something different. It's
Yeah.
interesting to hear that you're in that space as well.
Yeah. So the thing is, after I completed my design education, I immediately got into freelancing and then starting my what do you call, visiting sessions with different colleges. So I think past 1 decade I couldn't get time to work on the quality of my own what do you call, design quality. I've done a lot of projects, and uh, I have given my best to it, but then somewhere I have to stop, work on something which is really exceptional in terms of my own belief, and then maybe make it and give it to the world. So that's my that's what I would like to do in the future. It may be something which is a physical product. It may be something like a digital product, or it may be something like uh, anything. It could be anything which is there, which is valid in the future. So that's what I would like to do.
Great, that sounds exciting. Number five is a unique one to this podcast and probably interesting for you. The question is, let's talk about location. How does the notion of place play into what you do?
Okay, so as a designer, for me, location plays the role of a context. Okay, so
Mm,
just for an example, a refrigerator or a washing machine design needs to cater to the local context. Okay,
mm,
because food and clothing varies according to the geographical location.
mm,
So another huge example is cars or maybe buses or motorbikes. So location, place, people have to be critically considered in something like automotive design.
mm,
One very simple definition of modern design is the problem solving or designing for today's people, their needs and their aspirations. So it's about the people which you are working for, their needs, their current needs, and their current location. I mean their contemporary needs. Okay, so it's not about future. It is about the current location, current needs, current problems. So so that's why the place is a very important parameter, and designers cannot always be at the same place where their users are. Okay, so like if I'm doing an app for someone who is like in Canada, so I cannot be in Canada uh, working on the app uh, for the same place. But then we have to empathize and feel the user. We have to identify with the user wherever they might be. So that's where the research plays a very important role, and also the user study, and maybe the term which is empathize. So yeah, the place and the location is a very important thing. And just for people like me, my most important treasures are my available resources like materials, manufacturing facilities, skilled people, and of course food. So I really enjoy the local food everywhere I go. So place is a very important thing in context of industrial design.
I like that a lot. I like place as context. I'm very much of that world, trying to understand people before you decide what to make
Yeah.
for them. I definitely work in that way. I often talk.
I heard your TED talk regarding airports. So I almost felt the same thing, but in terms of places.
Perfect. Um,
Yeah.
Number 6, if you had to start from the beginning, what advice would you give your former younger self?
Hmm. So, anyways, currently I'm very young in my profession. So, but starting from scratch is a very important virtue. I consider starting from scratch as a very important quality anyone could ever have. I have to certainly do this every time I go. I have to go on a drawing board. Every time I take a new project, I go back to the scratch. But if I have to talk in terms of my journey so far, I am definitely willing to start from scratch. Okay, not that I had bad experiences, but it's exactly opposite of that. So I will consider starting from scratch as a good thing, because every time I do that, I reinvent myself and I'll try to learn something new. Okay, that happens with everyone, but I think doing this thing is very difficult because there's always some baggage and there is always some legacy which is lost. So, but for me, I like to learn something new. I like to talk to new people. I like to venture to into new places, new domains, and do something that is core to my heart. So starting from scratch is like doing something which is really, you always start from your heart. Okay, you always start from something which you already have in your body, or in your body, in your mind, in your brain. So I have learned new things about myself during this process, and I'm always pro scratching. So I consider this as a good quality rather than a difficult process.
I like that. I like talking about scratch in that way. I think that it's a good point to say that even though you're starting from scratch, you're always building on something.
Yeah.
And how does that kind of shape the way that you are restarting? I think is an important point.
Hmm.
Number 7, what's a day in your life like?
So if I'm not working overnight, or if I'm not finishing an entire season on Netflix, I tend to sleep a little bit late and get up just an hour before I need to leave my house. So practically, I organize everything the previous night, and I usually have a heavy breakfast. I am a pure vegetarian, so I fill my stomach with quantity of food. Uh, I think all over the tasks for the day during the breakfast, and also detail the time slots for the day required for each task. I don't get carried away usually by individual tasks during the daytime. So if something is has to be done, so it has to be done within the time and with the quality which is required for that day. Then my lunch is very average composition of food and chatting with people around. I love serving food and talking to people. So food is one way where I can break the ice with a lot of people. So even though I don't eat a non-vegetarian meal, so but I love cooking it and I love serving to people. So in that way, you always connect to people, uh, and they immediately accept your words. So I do that. I start my freelance work after my office hours, whenever that might be, and finish it before 8 to 9 p.m. I don't have dinner. I usually have some soup because two of my meals are very heavy, and night I don't feel like having something solid. And after that, I spend a couple of hours with my two kids, lovely kids, and after that, I spend the rest of the time planning for the next day, and I keep everything prepared. So it's not that I am too busy because my daytime is big and my night time is very small. And you can always rest in every task you do. So it's not that I am deprived of any sleep or any rest. But yeah, so I increase my daytime usually, and if I have to go somewhere, I reach early. And if I would always prefer to wait for others rather than hurry. Um and also, I've made my house far away from city, so I enjoy the life over here every single moment. So I'm not exhausted in anything, uh, at least not mentally. Physically, we can be, but mentally, I am always refreshed. I enjoy the weather. Uh, and once in a year, I go on a road trip to distant places with my friend. I hope you remember Ashish Nar.
I do remember, yeah.
Yes, so both of us usually take the car, any small car, and we go at least 3 to 4,000 kilometers
Mm.
in India, and we go and have food. We stay at random places, and we come back. So there's nothing glamorous in my usual day, but as an educator, I meet a lot of people on any given day, and I talk a lot with people during the daytime. So the rest of the time, I keep quiet and I talk to myself.
I like what you said about food. I'm very kind of mindful about the idea of food and community, food and people getting together around food.
Yeah.
I think historically it's been that food was always that time where people kind of got together and talked about their day. And it's super interesting to hear that that's like a fundamental way of how you eat
Hmm.
and how food
Yes.
works for you.
Yeah.
Uh,
So, anyways, you know this thing called empathize, and it's like a religion for every designer. And food is where you can start this process. So when
mm,
you accept someone, you go through whatever they do in their community, in their geography, in their location around the family. So that's where we have to start empathizing.
nice, I like that.
Yeah.
Number eight, lifelong learning is a popular topic. How do you stay up to date?
Okay. So as told earlier, I do freelance, and so my freelance projects are always challenging at first. Whenever a product is designed, it appears in the market a couple of years after it is designed. Uh, so we fall as designers. We fall in the inception phase. So we are in the birth phase of any product or any output, as designers. And for this, we need to implement new technologies and new advancements in the design. So to stay up to date, I have to usually do a lot of research whenever there is a brief in any project. I start with online research. I have to go and meet technology experts. They are quite rare, so I have to go travel places to meet people who are experts in their own domain, who are experts in materials, who are experts in, let's say, any kind of automation technology. So I do that usually. I have to do that as a freelancer because there's no escape for this. I cannot copy paste anything which is there. Okay. And also I am a teacher or a mentor, so I tend to guide students for the future and its challenges. And for this also I have to personally research into new things. So, but every new project, every new class, every new course, it always starts with research. It has to be with online research. It has to be with books. It has to be with a lot of journals and research papers, and also meeting people physically because they explain to me the nuances which are not there in the digital space, like some kind of keypad which has issues uh, with weather, some kind of displays which have issues with the location or the dryness in the air. So all these things are there which only experts can explain to me. So I go and meet them.
Nice. In design, research is becoming more and more prominent, and the process of talking to people to discover things, it becomes more and more important.
Mhm.
Number 9, what tools do you use? Are you digital? Are you analog?
Okay, so tools is an interesting word for me because I use both physical and digital tools quite frequently.
Mm,
Because I do products. So physical tools are there to shape the actual output, right? Physical output,
mhm,
like a sketch or a mock-up or a prototype.
mhm,
And digital is almost for the same, but not physically. So the tools are quite same in physical as well as digital domain.
mm,
Even if you go on Photoshop, there's the tool is a brush or a pen tool. Okay, so it represents something which is physical. Okay,
mhm,
so for me, I know that humans connect with physical things and they appear physically in virtual domain. Okay, so there's no distinguishing between the digital and physical tools. I have to learn both. I am comfortable with physical tools, and I treat digital output as a part of deliverable. Okay, not as ideation. So during ideation phase, I do not usually go to the digital domain, but definitely any kind of output which has to be delivered, it has to be a digital output. So because that's the norm for making any plastic part, you have to give the digital data for the surface. For anything which is like an application, it has to be a digital output. So digital is the part of deliverable, and physical is part of ideation, according to me.
And so I like that, what you're saying reminds me of the design word skeuomorphism, referring to the brush and pencil in Photoshop,
Hmm.
as things from the real world that get translated into
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
digital.
yeah.
Halfway
And
here.
the second, yeah. So sorry, you can
No,
continue.
please continue.
No, no. The second part of your question is digital nomad. Yeah. So I am not a digital nomad, but I do carry my required laptop and software, and whenever I go on vacation, also.
Mm,
I am not a very busy person. Okay, so I don't mind working anywhere and anytime. But I don't know whether it is called as a digital domain or not. But yeah, my work usually comprises of half and half of both, so digital and physical.
nice. Yeah, it's a funny term, digital nomad. We've got all sorts of different angles about what it might mean. Um,
Hmm.
and so halfway here, number 10, how do you deal with work-life balance?
So I do not have any issues with the balancing act. So I at least I feel maybe my family might have some other opinion, but I do not have any separation in my mind about work and other life. So I enjoy during my work. That's the big thing, and I also work during my enjoyment too. So uh, I mean, physically I am at work and I might be enjoying something or the other thing, and if I'm enjoying maybe on a vacation, I can also work for some time. So I cannot separate this. I have a very supportive family, like I told. So my lack of time at home is understood by them. So I do feel privileged because of my family. I I have, but I do feel that I have to give more time to family because my kids are growing up and they uh, they need few things from me. So, but I try to compensate it periodically by going out with them and having a good time together. So I'm been trying to do that, but even my daughter used to come every evening. She used to come to college to be in the workshop and enjoy the work which I do. So since she was very small, and she used to come and work with a lot of tools in the workshop, and she enjoyed watching me when I was working, and she also started with some things which she saw. So I don't know whether it could be separated or not, but as it is part of my personality, so even they feel like doing such things. Yeah,
I like
that's
that.
my.
Yeah, the interweaving of family with work is super interesting. That's a great story about your daughter. Number 11, if you weren't doing what you do now, what would you be doing?
Yeah, so this is, I think, the most difficult question because there's no answer to this as my job as an educator might change. Okay, so if I'm not working as a teacher or a mentor in a college, it might change, but I might work something which is design related domain. Okay, so maybe as a model maker or a prototyping guy. I I might not have a concrete answer to it, but uh, yeah. I will work with something which I have skilled. So some I will always work with my skills, and if I cannot work with my skills, I cannot work anywhere. So if I have to work in a data entry job, I cannot do that. If I have to work as maybe uh, a director of some management firm, I can't do that. If it is not with my skill, I can't do it.
Nice, that's super interesting. I think back to that earlier question about starting from scratch and then,
Yeah.
thinking about how that might work to build up the skills again, to do something that you're skilled at, and then kind of start from scratch again. It's a really interesting idea of what a process might be like.
Mm. Yeah.
Number 12, what would you not like to do with your career?
Yeah, since I started right in my first semester of my design education, uh, I always didn't like to work on computers. So, not just computers, but something which is virtual. Okay, so of course I have to work because that's the better half of design. Okay, so digital work on computers and virtual work on computers is always better. It's always perfect and it's always glamorous. Okay, so I have to do that, but I really can't achieve much in that side. So I would do till certain phase, and then I would take help of someone better at that job. uh, my I've learned over these years, I have learned to delegate this task to some expert. Okay, and then getting the best output from that people. But if it is just purely digital, usually be reluctant to do it, although I have to do it. So I would definitely not like to work completely on something digital or virtual. So that's my point of view. I mean, in the future, right now we have to every day we have to work on something which is digital, something which is physical. Like taking a class or a lecture is a physical aspect, but putting a session plan for the same thing is the digital aspect. So both of these are important. But if I have to do something which is completely digital, I would not like to do it.
Great. Number 13, what's your favorite word, quote, or sentence?
So my favorite quotes could be, or sentences. There are many actually. They are usually from crime movies or gangster movies or some series on Netflix, like something from Godfather. But my favorite word is empathy. Okay, So empathy is something which has, I mean, it's quite deep, and to actually implement it in your real life or your real profession is a lifelong process. So we cannot actually truly accept anyone else's point of view, but it's a process. It's like a lifelong process, and you always try to be better at it. So empathy is my favorite word, I can say.
What's your least favorite word, quote, or sentence?
Oh, I mean, all these success quotes, these quotes which are like always saying success is about this and this and that. So they are usually meaningless to me,
Mhm.
because it's like a broadcast which is given to everyone. So it's not valid to anyone in all the contexts. Okay.
Mhm.
So, uh, because it is quite generally and commonly used to motivate people, and which is actually not true. I mean, if you follow the same success story of someone else, you are not going to succeed at it. Okay.
Mhm.
The only way anyone has succeeded in their life or in their profession is because they have started from scratch. They have gone to their core. They have really struggled in a very unique way. Okay. And if you try to copy in same thing in your life, you won't get that same output. So the word success, which is misplaced everywhere, is what I don't like.
It's a good one. If you had to pick a word to describe yourself, what would you choose?
You mentioned digital nomad, so earlier, which I am not, but I am definitely. I would like to call myself as a nomad. So
Mm.
I always travel, not just physically, but I travel from different phases of the profession to have new experiences. So I would like to call myself as a nomad. Uh, I don't travel by planes. I am a claustrophobic person, but I travel by trains and roads and uh, any other transport, uh, which is to get to know new people uh, and their life and their work. And very interesting human evolution we had. Abruptly, we had mixing of communities, mixing of generations. Like today, we are talking with each other thousands of miles apart. So this has abruptly happened. It has never happened before. So, and this is a human evolution. It has not been created by aliens. It has not been created by any god of some nature, but it has been done by humans themselves. So, human evolution is something which I would like to travel to all the time and experience them.
Great. What keeps you up at night?
Only two things. Actually, three things. One is the uh, deadline. Okay. When I used to be with Symbiosis, I was heading the department, so I didn't get time during the day. But at night, I always took up new challenges, and I would finish the task till morning. So I had a good colleague over there, and both of us used to sleep in like 3 4 days. We used to sleep like 1 hour or 2 hours. So the work actually kept us all night, and that affected my health also. But now the work and my family sometimes maybe, but it's usually the work. And the third thing is the Netflix.
Awesome. And then final stretch here, number 17. What's a dream you're chasing?
Okay, so that's a very, what do you call, conceptual question. And the dream of the dream I've been chasing is, let's say, when I started into this profession, it was I actually escaped from my previous personality, which is the engineering and then the monotonous things and all the things. And then when I came over to learn the new things in design and all these things, so it was like a dream. Okay, so it was fulfilled back then only. But right now I have to do something which is of a unique quality and my what do you call, my lasting impression on something, which I which anybody would call as my design, like Kushal's design. So it may be something which is physical, or it may be something which is quite different from a physical design. So I would be definitely putting a stamp on something, uh, which people might call Kushal's design, or maybe Kushal's approach to design, or Kushal's method of designing.
Nice.
So that's my dream.
That's a great one. Number 18, what inspires you?
Ah, everyday challenges, every need which is there. So very interesting that need for today is like uh, it's like a norm for tomorrow. Okay, so today we have a need of something, and tomorrow it becomes like a norm. Okay, it's
Mhm.
like a normal thing in our lives. So today's need, or maybe people's need in today or the future, is like something which is really inspirational. There is always something to think about, there is always something to aspire for, and there is always something to go ahead rather than going back. Everybody must have had bad experiences in their previous half of life. So the needs, or identifying new things in this humanity, is like which keeps you pushing forward. Like something is getting exhausted, any resource is always getting exhausted, so always we always aspire to find something which is new. Okay, which is renewable, which is the need for tomorrow. Okay,
Mhm.
so that is always which is inspiring, not just me, to every person who is working in any profession. Okay, so need is something which is which inspires me, and I think some way or the other it is inspiring everyone who is working in any profession.
That's super interesting. It makes me think of John Maeda, who talks about how people do things, but then they run out of energy and they need to refuel. Versus, like, if a machine does something, it never runs out of energy. It can keep doing it over
Yeah,
and over and over again. I
yeah,
guess that's part of what makes us human.
yeah.
Um, any advice you'd like to share?
Hmm. So, yeah, just a long chat we had before about starting from scratch. I really don't want to mean it in a very what do you call, literal way. Okay, so starting from scratch is not like you have to leave your current profession and then go back to learning new things and all those things. But if you go to your core, and if you keep on hanging on to your legacy or something which you have already made, and then you are very proud of it, so then that's where you have a problem. So I would always like to do myself, or I would like to always guide my students also, or any learner, that you have to just leave it. Okay, so just move on. You've attained something from your good or bad experiences, and then move on, and you have to start from what you have with you right now. And so that's like starting from scratch every day, as always, with every new challenge, every new person, every new task which you face. Okay, so that's where you will you we will have a very unique output, very unique contribution to the society, or maybe to our community. uh, so unlearn and then learning again, unlearn and then learning again, so has to
Yeah.
be
Mhm.
part of the usual process. Okay, I cannot go to my class every day and feel that I have been just because I am teaching some course, I am an expert in that course. Okay, so I'll be trying to always look back on the online research, going and talking to people, and then including in my presentation which I show to students, that okay, this is going to happen during the course of these next 2 3 years, and you need to follow this thing according to me. And then I am not an expert in that, but I always try to uh, maybe unlearn a few things which I feel that they are my baggage, and I always try to move on. with new things.
I'm really glad you mentioned unlearning. I think it's a crucial part of becoming a designer, and it's very hard to get to. We talk about starting from scratch as kind of starting from zero, but most people are in the negative and they have that baggage. And how do you kind of let go of that so that you can start from the beginning again? Can be a difficult thing, but a necessary thing, I think, in design.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
And
So
number
it's like the memory in our cell phone. So if we have a very small memory in our cell phones, we try to take very crucial and very important photographs, and then keep looking at it over and over again. If we have a big memory in our like 256 GB or 512 GB, so we randomly take photographs, we try to capture each and every moment, and we never go back and look at those images. Okay. And we do not have that capability of sorting important things to the unimportant things. So that's what happens with the experiences also, where if you have if you want to hold on to the important and unimportant things together, then we will never progress. Okay. We will keep on needing new memories in our lives. Okay.
mm,
So that's what I feel
mm,
usually.
nice. And number 20, how can our listeners keep tabs on you? How can we follow you?
So as I just have an email ID. I have a Facebook profile, and just because of peer pressure, I have a Insta account also.
Mm,
But yeah, I continuously follow. I check my email. Okay, because it's my freelance. It's the email ID which I created 15 years back for my freelance work. Okay, so that's where people can contact me, and Facebook, which is my Facebook ID. So it's Kushal Jadhav. I don't know the profile name, but it is, you can search for Kushal Jadhav and you might be able to get in touch with me. But if it is regarding work, you can definitely email me on zyn.design@gmail. So zyn was the word which I thought of stamping on my products, which I would be creating as
mm,
a what do you call, a successful designer.
mm.
So I kept that name on, and I will do that in the future, where it will be really stamped on something. zyn.design.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Kushal. So awesome to hear about your ideas around making and prototyping right away. I really like the conversation we had around food and community and people. But even just hearing about how you live your life and the way that, your work life is kind of resulting in good things, I think is really inspiring. And I think a lot of our audience will be inspired by that. So thanks so much for coming on the show.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Thomas. And it was you who really always kept in touch with me. I really wished for having the hard copy of your book. And I would always congratulate you, because you are the one who is always trying to do some unachievable tasks. So I would like to congratulate, as well as wish you all the best for everything which you do
Thank you so much,
in
Kushal.
unique ways. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Thomas.